Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, July the 15th to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Holst.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Matson.
Here.
McCusker.
Okay.
Schoblum.
Here.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting this evening. This time, the Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moves us on to item 5 this evening. Public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Hello, I'm
Please.
Joyce Detman.
Please sign in.
Oh, I got to do that before I can speak?
That way we don't forget.
The mic on out there, Jeff?
Looks like it,
Hi, I'm Joyce Detman, 319 North 3rd Street, and we have a parking problem in front of our place. I live right beside Freeborn Manor, and they keep parking in our driveway. Our driveway starts and they park right on top of it, so we cannot make a swing in to our driveway. I have campers coming in, and my son brings trailers in, and he just about hits the cars that are out there. I want some space. They don't even park up next to their driveway into Freeborn Manor as close as what they park in ours. And there has been a few times that they've actually parked in our driveway, and we had the police down there to have them removed. I was wondering if there possibly could be some kind of a sign put up down there for them so that they can read. I do have reflectors out there right now, but they're not going with them either. They're parking in them too.
Jeff, I've noticed that a lot around that place. There's a lot of cars on the street there on 3rd Street, right across the street from Rod's there. And in the wintertime when they're out there, it really makes it hard. I mean, they got that parking lot. I mean, is it the parking lot full, or are they just not parking in the parking lot? Or
yes and no. The biggest problem is that that complex was designed with one off-street parking for each building or each space. However, they 2 years ago received a variance and could rent to other than 55 plus or disabled. And so all of a sudden they were getting more people in that had more vehicles. As it relates to your specific problem, I talked with our Public Works Director a couple of weeks ago, and they put it on the schedule for, we're actually going to yellow the curbs, so it's a more visual no parking. We have been doing the enforcement on it. I mean, we have city ordinances prohibit parking within 10 feet of intersections, or not intersections, of driveways, mailboxes, that type of stuff. So we have been issuing citations, but we still continue to see the problems. What we haven't been doing is towing on those. We just have been issuing the citation unless they leave them there for more than 24 hours. But we are trying to get that corrected. I don't know if Tom might better be able to address this. I know he and I talked about, the concerns as far as, especially in the wintertime, that section of street narrowing. I'm not sure if it's going to be something he takes to Public Works Commission to look at, restricted parking or not.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. We'll have to get some yellow paint down there. I agree there's also a congestion problem on both corners, so I think we're going to have to put some yellow on both sides and try and push those cars down further, not...
Yeah, even they are parking right in that one spot right behind Rod's Liquor Store there, and even when we come in, there's a car there normally, so we can't make the hook out. If that could be posted too, as no parking there.
Okay, I'll address that with our painter when he started the last couple of days. He started around town, so we'll talk and get that done.
Yeah, I would sure appreciate it because it's getting harder and harder, and we do want to do work on our back garage this year, so we are going to be having bigger trucks. We're going to finally sighting it, maybe, but you know, with the bigger truck and the equipment coming in, they need to be able to get in there. And even so, with the fire department, I would love to see some of their trucks coming down that road, you know, and just coming down because they are parked on both sides.
Okay.
So I'd really appreciate it if something could be done ASAP. So thank you so much.
One of the things we could do is if the you're having some work done before then, let us know. We could put up some temporary no parking if you're expecting larger equipment coming in and out on one
the only
side to try to
thing
give
is-
more room.
Yeah, we got to get it planned out, but hopefully with the yellow paint, if they know what yellow paint means.
I'm not giving guarantees on that. I just know working with Tom, it is something that we have had some discussions on and trying to take care of. But if you anticipate dump trucks or anything that's really large,
Yeah.
if you know a couple of days ahead of time, we have to have 24 hours notice to
Yeah.
be able to put the signage up.
Well,
But
the
we
only-
certainly could try to help you in getting that accomplished for
My
a day
son
or
comes
two.
in with longer trailers, and I have no clue when he's doing that.
Right.
The other night he showed up with one, but it's.
Yep.
But it seems to be the problem seems to be getting worse, not better.
Yep.
And I don't know why they insist on parking on top of our driveway.
Well, part of it is that there's a fair number of people who have been trespassed out of
Yeah.
that complex who then hang out on the street and that type of thing.
I
So
understand that, but they're younger than me and they can walk. Moving on
won't
down the line.
disagree. Won't disagree, but that's
Yeah.
that's what we've been seeing a lot of lately. Is some of
Yeah.
those people are just hanging out on the street.
Yeah. But if anything could be done to help put a sign up for no parking or something, I would sure appreciate it.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Thank
for bringing
you.
it to our attention.
Tom, is there any yellow paint there now, or is it wore off, or
No,
never got
there's
put
never,
on?
as a rule, most cities 15, 20 years ago with budget cuts, they quit doing all the radiuses just 'cause it was just so costly. So we only kind of do the radiuses when needed, if needed. So,
Right.
but there's nothing there now, and I don't know that there ever has been.
Okay. Oh, hopefully this helps. Well, you let us know.
okay, I might be back.
We like when you come in and keep us informed.
All right, anybody else want to address this council under public input? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items of this area, the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For those folks at home, I'll read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending July the 9th, 2014. Item B are the meeting minutes for the July 1st, 2014 City Council meeting. Item D, Resolution 2086, approving plans and specifications for 2nd Street Southwest street improvements. Item E, Resolution 2088, accepting a monetary grant from the Minnesota Mission Lifeline Program for the purchase of ambulance equipment. And item F, Ambulance Department resignations. Is there any items anybody wishes to bring down? I will be bringing down item F, which will be item 7C.
We'll just throw that one out. We won't accept it. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anybody else want to bring anything down? If not, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to council business. Item A is financing options and discussion, general fund reserves level. And Ron's not here this evening, so Linnell?
Yeah, thank you. Tonight we have before you some options that, well, I guess the discussion that Ron and I have had regarding the options for financing some of those projects that the council has discussed in the past, such as the 2nd Street Southwest area, the 308th Street project, and the like. One of the things that we are bumping up against an issue, and this is where we're asking for council direction this evening, is we just are looking for council consensus that you do indeed want to bring the general fund reserve down to 50%. Now, when we had our auditors here a couple weeks ago, he did say that we were currently at about if I remember correctly, about 76%, I think. That item, that 76% did include some assigned fund balances. So once that part has been removed, assigned fund balance, that particular one is actually for the funding for the city share of the library project. So we've kind of pulled that out of the normal general fund reserve and set it aside, so it's basically earmarked for that purpose. Once we've pulled that out, we're actually down at about 66%. And then in the materials that you received from Ron, there was also a memo and some minutes from a meeting that we had about a year ago addressing this issue. And there were a lot of items on that list that the council had discussed using some of those general fund reserves at that time to bring it down to 50%. Some of those things have been done, not all of them have been. So we need to just take a closer look at that and try to figure out what the best options are. But to move forward with those discussions, we just want a direction from you that you still want to go to the 50%. Now, we're recommending that we do not go below 50% for various reasons, including our bond rating and just general practice. You may recall that our financial advisor was here about a month ago, and he even suggested we not go below, like, what, 70 or 75%. For the bond rating. But we have had discussions with him since then, told him where we were kind of headed, and wanted to make sure that he was comfortable with going down to the 50%, and he said he was. So with all of that in mind, we're just asking some direction from the City Council this evening.
One of the reasons I had them bring it up again, if we have the reserves and we can pay for some of these projects out of the reserves, then we don't have to bond for it. We save money in the long run because we don't have to pay interest or anything else. So if there's a way that we can pay for some of these out of the reserves and then bond for the other, then in the long run we're going to save some money and not by not having to borrow so much to complete some of these projects. So,
Linnell, I'm looking at this list that we approved about a year ago. If we do all those things, how much will we need to bond for, including anything new like the Second Street and that kind of stuff?
That's a good question. Basically, what I was looking at at the end of 2013, if we took the unassigned fund balance, which is the 66%, brought that down to 50%, we're only looking at a difference about $486,000. And with some of the items that are listed on here, we've got more than that spent. So I think even if we do everything on this list, we're going to end up borrowing some money to do that. And then in addition to these projects of the 2nd Street Southwest and the 318th Street.
Okay, of these projects that are on this list, how many of those have been paid for? How many of those have not been paid for? I've $50,000 where we talked about paving of the pool parking lot. Did we use that to help fix the pool?
Yeah, we're probably up to 42,000, but we're done, so there should be a little excess there.
Yeah, but that's.
We fixed the pool. We did all the repairs that were needed, as we talked about earlier in the year.
Right, and then the Highway 19 crosswalk project. I know we talked about $37,000 for that, and
we talked today that possibly we could try putting the intersection in without the lighting, and that would maybe cut that figure in half, and then kind of take a wait-and-see approach on the lighting, see what kind of safety hazards there are there. Jeff and I discussed this morning a little bit, but we did decide to move the crossing down to the 7th Street crossing. That took some time there, but money-wise, I think it's going to be right around the same, but the big thing is going to be the lighting, the flashing lighting, so that's where we're at on that.
As far as the other items on this list, the HVAC update at City Hall has not been done. We have, was it compressors? Or
Two of the compressors are out now. That's about a $10,000 bill.
Yeah.
They should be replaced next week.
So that part is earmarked. The pool, as we just discussed. The siren for the hospital area, we discussed that at our staff meeting this morning as well. That has not yet been purchased because of future growth, and we're not exactly sure how that's all going to develop. We're kind of holding off on that till we know the exact location where it would make the most sense for that. So we're pushing that one off for a time. The city's portion of the Three Rivers bus, that has been done. That was done in January of this year. The new PD squad computers, I was told, was just recently purchased within the last week or so. Or
Well, they were purchased more than that, but we just got the invoice from the
Okay.
last week. They went to Michelle on Friday.
Okay, so we've just received the invoicing on that. And then the rifles have not been purchased yet. They're doing specs on it, but that project could be delayed if necessary to accomplish some of the other things.
What about the city portion of the library project cost at $248? We were talking about paying a lump sum off, right?
Yeah, that's that assigned fund balance that I referenced earlier,
Okay,
that we've
okay.
actually set that aside.
Okay.
Now, what we have not set aside yet is the project overruns. And I was looking at that this afternoon to try to get a better idea. The number listed a year ago was $258,000. When I look at the construction fund, we're actually down about $388,000. So I'm not exactly sure. I haven't done an analysis of that project, so I'm not sure where the difference between the number that Aaron had and where the actual cash deficit is in that fund right now. So I would need to take a little closer look at that. So we're at anywhere between the 258 and the 388,000 on that. So that's a huge number that could really impact what our reserves are going to be, because we've got to pay for that.
Well, it sounds like we're still going to have to do some sort of bonding.
Yeah.
The question is,
I'm
how much?
anticipating we're going to have to do some bonding to accomplish these things.
This will just be a,
You know, now, I got a bunch of questions. I was going to meet with, tried to get together with Ron today to get some questions answered, but he is not in good shape, so you'll have to bear the brunt of it tonight, I guess.
I may not have the answers, but I'll write them down and try to get it for you later if I can't answer them tonight.
The one question I was going to ask him is that, and I think you answered it earlier, is that I remember we took $760,000 and we allotted it for the library, even though we didn't have to pay that like for 5 years. So is that $760,000 still sitting there, or is that part of this package here?
Well, the 760 would be the total debt for the library project. That's not included in here because that's in a separate fund.
Okay.
What we're talking about tonight is just the general fund.
Okay.
Now, the city did say that we were going to pay a portion of that project, and that's where that $260,000 of the assigned fund balance comes into play. But we've also got this overage of the project and the construction portion that is still kind of up in the air that we need to figure
And
out.
I don't remember seeing this high of extra cost
Me either.
when we were doing all this, so
I didn't either.
was this something that came in later, or is this part of our water problem we've had, or where did
No.
this come from?
No, it
This
doesn't
was
have
last
anything to do with the water problem. These are issues that were done during the construction. That's why I said I haven't had an opportunity to really take a look at where those overages came into play. Now, it may not be that bad. What I looked at was just the cash balance in the construction fund, and that's where that difference is. That's a negative balance of the $388,000. Now, it may just be because a transfer hasn't been done yet or something like that, so it may not be that bad, but that's why I need to take a closer look at that.
Okay, then the other thing is, since we're on the library, I notice you have the library project cost overruns of $258, and then you actually have the city's portion of the library project cost at $248.
Yep.
So the way I understood it at the time, we put $760,000 away to pay that library off, but then it looks to me now like we had $260,000 in cost overrun, so we actually spent probably $1 million on that library. Then.
Well, that part of that was what we bonded for because we have to wait for those pledges to come in. Is that not correct?
That is correct, and that's where
Or that $700,000 or $800,000 worth came in
Yeah, so
of what was raised.
But, I thought we set that money aside. I didn't know we bonded for that at the time.
for the library project.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we had to bond for it.
Okay, so in other words, what we did is we bonded, and we made it a 5-year bond, and then we've got the money sitting there. But we actually got the money to pay it off, but we did a bond on it then.
We don't have all the money to pay it off yet. The majority of that project was through donations made from the community.
Yeah, I know that end of it. I understand that, but I can remember going over this many times with Aaron. The $760,000 that I wanted to put into some of it into our sewer and water fund to keep the prices down, and it was determined that we were going to leave that there to protect the library when the time comes due on that. So I don't want to discuss that anymore, but I'm just letting you know, and you and Tom or Ron, how I've seen this thing over the last 2 or 3 years. So I guess I'm a little bit confused now because I thought we had that covered except for possibly the cost overruns, but now it don't quite seem that way. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that on doing any blacktopping over at that pool, I wish we would just hold our jets on that till we decide what we're going to do with that pool. My biggest concern is that you spend the money on the blacktopping and you decide next year to build a new one.
Yeah,
Leroy, we held off on.
Yeah, we're not doing
that.
the
We used the
blacktopping.
money to get the pool operating this year.
Right, but this is in the budget here.
Well, that was
No.
that's what we were going to use it for, but instead it got used to get the pool operating.
right, yeah, this is not in addition to the money, it's instead of. So that, even though it says the parking lot on here, we're not using it for that purpose. We're using it to get it up and running for this year.
Because you're right, we do want to wait till we decide what to do on the pool otherwise.
Right. The other thing is, Aaron and I went around about this quite a few times too, is I think he had people in here 3 times, and we never spent this much, but we did spend as much as $10,000-12,000 studying this heating and cooling system in this place, which I know has been a mess from day one because I was down here with all the construction when it started. And to me, this $60,000 is, it's set in there, the payback and the grants and stuff. Well, if you can get the grants, great, but there's going to be no payback on this $60,000. This is just a big system that we had a 60-ton air conditioner in here when we were remodeling, and I told staff at that time, whatever you do, don't put that big 60-ton unit back in here. You get rid of the ventilation they had for what they had in here before, and you can use 1/2 that size. And of course, they put back in a 50-ton, but they did nothing to correct the situation inside. So all I'm saying is, until you have a complete engineering study done by an engineer on this system, we shouldn't keep dumping good money after bad, because $60,000 will not improve the efficiency of the system down here. It needs a total different look to it. So that part I have problems with, spending the money on that. There was one other thing. I understood, Linnell, the money. I met with Aaron and we talked about that at different times. I think the state originally offered us $240 for that land out there, and Aaron set the counter offer in, so it ended up at, I think, $260. So I knew about the $260 money out there. I also knew about the $60,000 that came in because we weren't being paid on that tower rental that Aaron found, and we finally got that money. So I was aware of probably about $320,000 or $30,000 that we had extra income out there, but I wasn't quite aware of this other $400,000 that is on top of this. So where did the other $400 come? Is that from other funds, or
Which
more
400,000?
taxes come in or something, or
What 400,000 are you talking about, Leroy?
what's that?
What 400,000 are you talking about?
Well, we're actually talking now. We got a reserve fund. What, about 700,000?
This data is a year old.
This was
We don't
last
have
year.
that
This was last
anymore.
year's.
Okay.
This was
So-
2013 when
Okay.
we had this memo.
The other thing I wanted to throw out to you, Linnell, is that the Second Street project and that stuff, I assume that's over and above this.
Yes.
And the Second Street project, I still, and that was the things I was going to talk to Ron today about and wasn't able to do it, is I would still like to see that Second Street project come out of our reserves for the sewer and water fund. I still believe we have that $500,000 or whatever in there for reserves for emergencies. And if that ain't an emergency, I don't know what is. And I was going to ask Ron how much we put into that fund each year, into that reserves, if it's 25,000 or 30,000 or what it is. So if we did take that money, how long it would take to build that reserves back up?
You're talking in the water and sewer funds, the operating funds?
Yeah.
We don't designate money to be set aside as reserves. That's an operating fund. It's an enterprise fund, so it's run similar to a business. You know, you've got the revenues, operating revenues, and your operating expenses, and hopefully your revenues cover your expenses. But we don't have any way to actually build a reserve other than through our water and sewer bills. So that's where this whole water and sewer rates.
Oh, that's what I was told, that we do have a partial reserve in there, and
Oh, you're talking about X amount for operating expenses plus, what, a 3 to 6 month reserve, or?
Right,
cover
plus we've
expenses?
got, and depression.
Right, yeah, for debt
depreciation and-
obligations.
Yeah, we have a lot of debt.
That's what I think you're referring
obligations.
to, Leroy.
right. So anyway, I guess I'll get that clarified. I'm probably wrong on that, but that's the way it was explained to me. That there isn't, if you want to call it an over operating capital or reserve, I don't know what the right word is for it. We do not operate at zero, I'm sure of that, and we do allow so much money in there for things that pop up.
Right, I mean, the whole idea when you set the rates for the utility bills is that you've got enough money to cover all your costs, plus perhaps a little bit of contingency, because there are always things that need to be done as far as repairs, you know, in the water and sewer departments and the water tower and whatnot. But we don't specifically set them to say, well, we're going to have $25,000 extra because of this rate that we're setting. You know, it's more general than that, I guess.
Cover the debt and everything else out of that fund.
Yeah.
I would, you know, I'm all for whatever we can do to keep from bonding and to bring that reserve balance down or whatever. The one thing that I feel comfortable about is that the last 2 years, for some crazy reason in this economy we've been in, we did have some good things happen around here with construction and tax base and stuff like that, that are probably going to come online this year that will make it easier on our budgeting. I guess after talking to the auditors and the accountants and all that stuff, I guess I still don't have a problem with going down to 45%, but I also would like to keep us in at least a 5 to 7% room in case budget time comes this fall, and we have some other expenses out there that we didn't plan on, which I could list off a lot of them that it kind of scares me are coming up and could be expensive problems. So, but I don't see, you know, I'm a little bit funny this way. These rating companies are the same people that put the ratings out there when this country went in the toilet here 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, I want to respect them. I want them to do their job. But to me, if we can operate at 45%, we're probably overcharging our citizens 5%. And when we do have problems, we never seem to take reserves or things to pay for them. We bond the big projects that happen. So, yeah, I don't want to wreck our bond rating, but I also think the more money we got sitting around here, the more we could have lowered our percentages on our tax base. So that's just my general view of this whole thing. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? So is the council's consensus still to reduce the reserves to 50%?
Yes, I would
say
think so.
no less than that.
No less, and then figure out what we have to bond and still do most of the items on this list except for what
Maybe delayed it.
may have to be delayed, but
So we'll take a motion.
On a motion?
We need a motion on that?
If you want to make it.
Yeah, yeah.
Moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Merle,
and I'll second that.
second by Bill, to confirm that we will look at lowering the reserve to 50% and for staff to get us the numbers of what we will have to bond for to pay for these other projects after we get it to 50%. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 7B, Resolution 2087, accepting FEMA assistance to firefighters grant award and authorizing city expenditure.
Actually, this item is regarding the fire department, and the fire chief is here, so I'm going to let him talk about that.
Mayor and City Council, we recently applied again for FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant for turnout gear, which, as you see on your list, consists of helmets, masks, boots, jacket, the whole works. We did receive a grant, total grant of $57,200. The share that would come, we call it the city share, but it would come from the fire department equipment fund, would be $2,860, or 5% of that grant. Jeremy Mao's been our grant writer, done a great job on getting us some grants over the last 3 years. We've gotten upwards of $300,000 in grants, and we're trying to, the stuff that we replaced, the pagers, they went to a narrow band system, so we had to buy all new pagers. That was on the county, which we received a grant. The breathing apparatus and extrication tools, breathing apparatus were the ones we had were 1999 models, and they were outdated. Along with our gear, most of our gear is over 10 years old, going on 12. So it's outdated according to ISO and all that stuff. So we've been applying for these grants and luckily been able to get them to help keep the fund budget going in our equipment fund, to keep for, if we need to all of a sudden have to buy a truck or something, we've got money for that and not have to use it for the smaller equipment.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
On another note too, we have this year, through our charitable gambling, through the Relief Association, put $11,000 into the equipment fund. We purchased a Rescue Randy, which is a rescue dummy basically for search and rescue and that stuff. We put some equipment into our new grass rig, and we recently put in $6,000 towards rope rescue, which most of our guys are all certified rescue, so now we bought the equipment so we can go out if we have to go into a grain bin or do whatever we need to do. But some of that money that we're spending on that is coming from charitable gambling too, so we're trying to do as much as we can for equipment.
I mean, it's just great to be able to get those grants and have other people contribute to our fire department. I mean, I'd like to say thanks to you guys for doing that, taking the time to apply for those grants, and because I know it's a lot of work putting all that stuff together. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
And is there any other further discussion? If not, the chair will take a motion to adopt the resolution accepting the FEMA assistance to firefighters grant award and authorize the expenditure of the city's share of $2,860.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, John. And that moves us on to item 7C, which is the ambulance department resignations. We have two employees of the ambulance department, Mike Altoff and Ivan Markowitz, who are both departing. Mike Altoff will be out of here on the 19th of August to take a job with the city of Rochester as a firefighter. And Ivan is also taking another position. With that, it's going to bring our ALSs down to basically one person. And with the hospital coming on board, with other things happening, we want to make sure that our ambulance service is able to stay at where it should be. So the Personnel Committee tonight, we spoke, and what we'd like to do is, number one, accept the resignations of Mike and Ivan and thank them for the job that they did for us for many years here in the city, but also authorize the hiring of one EMT, which could be an internal candidate, and up to two paramedics that we should be advertising for. So that we can keep our ALS folks and start the 24-hour rotation to make sure that we've got enough people to cover our ambulance staff and provide quality service to our citizens.
And one note, too, that we did talk about is that, while two people are leaving and we're looking at possibly hiring up to 3 people, that was planned for in this whole process of the additional runs that would be required because of the new hospital and what they're going to be asking of us. So that was planned, and so the Personnel Committee, and talking with Brenda, had decided that we might want to just include this at this time and just get everybody trained and up to speed so that we're ready to go.
And if the other part of it was for the EMT, if there is a suitable EMT candidate internally, that hiring could take effect immediately, so that we don't lose any ground there. With the new hospital coming on board, I know that they already do a lot of ambulance runs to different hospitals from Mayo here, whether it's to Abbott Northwestern, whether it's down to the Mayo Clinic or to Red Wing or whatever. If we don't have the people to fill those positions to do them, then they're going to call other ambulance services, and we lose revenue that way. So I mean, sometimes we got to spend a little money to make a little money. But I think if we do this, we'll be able to get the right people on board, and as we see what happens as the hospital comes on board and what type of services they're going to require us to help and any growth in the city, I think we'd be taking a step in the right direction at this time.
I think, Robbie, this town owes a big thank you to Brenda and Mike and Ivan. They've basically been running this for a couple of years now, when we probably should have had another 2 people on there already. And the crazy part of it is we're losing 2 good people at one time, so the situation we're in now is kind of binding, because it would have been nice if we'd have had another 1 or 2 people trained to back them up. So I'm really grateful to them for what they've done, and want to wish them the best, but I'd also like to bring up to the council and to staff that in the future, I almost think the council and staff should have a meeting about how we want to continue to do things. If we're going to make one thing in the ambulance business, I got to tell you a little story to give you an idea of how this works. Is Mike Eltoff has worked with me all through high school, and he was funny. He was all about girls. He was all about partying. He was mostly about his paycheck coming all the time. But as time went on, he was going to be an electrician, then he was going to be in the heating business, and then he was going to do this. And then he decided to try out the EMTs and got very interested in it, really found himself a home with it. the cool part of it is his enthusiasm and the things he was doing. Not only was part of our EMT staff, but he was also part of the training program that we were putting on down there and bringing people in all the time. The one day we were out on a job, and he came out, and he's usually there when I was there, and he came out and he said, well, what should I work on? So I told him what to work on, and he went over to the corner and he just stood there and he looked out the window for a while. So I thought, well, I wonder what happened now. And then, so I waited about a half an hour and nothing got done. So I walked over to him and I said, are you all right, or what's going on? Yeah, I'm fine, he said. Oh, I said, well, you want to work on that then? Yeah. So about another 20 minutes go by and nothing gets done. And so I walked over to him and I said, well, you either got to tell me what's going on or you might as well go home. So if you don't want to tell me, just leave and we'll talk tomorrow. Well, he said, I think I'll tell you what happened. He said, I got called out this morning on an ambulance call, and he said a little girl was running with a Phillips screwdriver and fell down and stuck it right in her eye, all the way in. And I said, well, that would have a tendency to mess you up, wouldn't it? Well, yeah, he said, I can't get it out of my mind. He said, I think it's okay, but every time I start working, all I can see is that screwdriver. And he said, of course, she wanted to pull it out. So I was having a heck of a time trying to explain to her that he couldn't let her touch it and yet try to keep her calm. And well, anyway, this is the kind of emotional things these people work with. We had a real tragic weekend here on the 4th and affected our group here. So my thinking is we almost should decide on if we want to train these people for other towns or if we want to try to give more wages and keep them. Right now, I think we're a training staff for other towns because of the price of our what we pay people. We've lost 2 good young people in the police department to the county and stuff. This here, I think for Mike is such a career change that I think that's a new challenge that wages probably wouldn't have made any difference. It's just such a great opportunity for him. But I do think that sometimes the wage thing is an issue. And whether we train 2 part-time personnel and get more part-time people on to have them ready to work in. We just did a thing with Tom here not too long ago about Public Works for the day that David Pagel decides to retire, and we got to work somebody else in. So I think we need to, it's like you said, Robbie, sometimes you just have to pay more to have good service. I think the ambulance service is so critical now with our new hospital that we probably actually have to get some more people trained in, and we probably are going to have to spend a little bit more money in the short run to make things better in the long run. But I think staff and personnel have to look at all this stuff and see if we should take a different direction.
Okay, with that,
I'm sorry, I just would like to clarify that those positions that we are talking about tonight are all full-time positions. For clarification.
yep. So at this time, the chair will take a motion first to accept the resignations of Mike Altoff and Ivan Markowitz.
With regret, so moved.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the second part, I'll need a motion to approve the hiring of 1 EMT with the stipulation that if a candidate is found in-house, qualified candidate is found in-house, that it can be done immediately, and up to two paramedics that we will advertise for.
So moved.
And I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to reports. Brenda.
Just briefly, thank you for your assistance with my personnel problems, and I would be remiss if I did not take an opportunity tonight myself to also specifically thank Ivan and Mike for their service, not only to the city and the ambulance service, but working with me as well. Ivan and I have worked together as paramedics. I have learned a lot from him and hopefully shared some with him as well. And I can't say enough about what Mike and I have shared over the 10 years he's been employed here together, as far as the ambulance goes and the operation of this service. It wouldn't have gotten where it is today without the haggling we have done between us to get it there. So they both have my deep appreciation, and I wish them all the best in their plans for the future. I couldn't be happier for both of them in where they're going and what they want to accomplish. And I thank them very much.
Thanks, Brenda. Tom?
Well, I don't have anything that good to follow, but the one-ton pickup we sold at state auction, we got $6,500. I would have traded it for a handful of magic beans at one time, so I'm very impressed that somebody got that pickup. But we're running a little behind schedule as far as our normal duties around town. The grass keeps growing. We're one man short, so Afton and I are stepping out of the office from time to time. So if you see, what are they out doing on the lawnmower, that's what we do. We all pitch in to fill the spot that's empty, and that's what we're doing right now. We'll take applications through this week, and we'll have somebody hopefully on board by mid-August. So we'll continue to work at that too. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for the job you're doing. I know with all the rain and everything else over the last month or so, it's tough to keep caught up, and with the fair and the parades and everything else, it's busy. And it's not even snowing. Chief?
Well, looking forward to the snow. Before the council, you'll see a memo that I prepared. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it in time to be included in the agenda packet, but because of its the date, I would like to get council action so that they can move ahead with their planning and know that they could have that portion of the street closed. It's a street closure for August 9th for the Veterans Memorial dedication. They're going to be they are requesting to close part of Mill Street, essentially from west of the alley between Germstead's and the winery to the entrance of the city lot, and would kind of do that diagonal to give them a little bit more space. And the reason that I'm keeping the alley open is they didn't want to shut down Mill Street entirely, and that would provide the ability for cars that were diagonally parked to back out and then drive down that alley rather than trying to back out onto Highway 20. So I would request a motion and approval of that, and then I can cover the other items after that.
So moved.
And I will second that.
A motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you, Council. The other thing is just the way that council meetings run. Before our next one, we're going to have a few things occurring. The Wine and Art Festival will be this weekend. As far as inconvenience to people, I don't think there'll see too much interruption. There will be shuttling occurring between the fairgrounds and Lower Hannah's Bend, but by and large, it won't impact traffic flow. The Fireman's Dance will be on the 25th. That will close off part of Hoffman Street between 4th and 3rd. We do see a large number of people for that not only are walking down to the event, but then walk downtown afterwards. So just remind people to be watchful for the people that are on foot that evening. And then the Cannon Cruisers will be the following Friday. We'll have the cruising and I'm trying to remember, I think they go from the Napa lot through downtown and then, out and around and stuff. There will be some traffic disruption with that. We sort of do a rolling roadblock with them to get them out of town. But the impact should be fairly minimal. I'm guessing 15 minutes at the most for most people, but we want them to be aware of that. And that'll get us to our August council meeting when I'll probably have more things. That's all I have.
Thanks. No? Yeah.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Tom, just a question for you on 2nd Street. When do they anticipate redoing the street itself?
The street itself, I haven't talked to Greg. Originally, they wanted the water in by the 27th. They were ahead of a schedule on July from that, but that doesn't probably change the asphalt. But I would guess shortly after they get 3/18 done, which they're going to start on Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
I would guess within the next 2 weeks.
All right. I had a request, so I'd ask. I have nothing else.
Leroy?
So we've got everybody back online now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Nothing.
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 Yeah, sorry about that. Shock you like that.
The other thing I've got is, while we're talking about money like we were earlier tonight, we need to do a budget workshop after the August 5th City Council meeting so that we can work on our preliminary budget. The state this year did pass a bill that allows us to have it set by the 15th of September, or approved by the 15th of September, compared to the 1st of September like it used to be. And they gave us extra 2 more weeks. So we need to get that started. So we need to do a budget workshop after the August 5th council meeting.
And then we approve a preliminary budget at our first September meeting, right?
No, is it first September meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to approve it by then so that they can get it in by the 15th. And I'd just like to say, the 4th of July came around. There were a lot of things that happened in the city. Hats off not only to our public works folks, but to our police department, our fire department, our first responders, and everything. They've been above and beyond the call of duty when it came to doing their jobs, and I'd just like to say thank you to all of them for a job well done. That'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.